Wow, beautiful, beautiful. I'll just let my guests in studio to introduce themselves. We can start from here.
Hi, good morning. My name is Mumbi Macharia. I am a spoken word poet and writer.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Eugene Bogwa and I'm the producer of Concert Nyumbani.
All right.
Hi, my name is Jazia and I am a poet, a writer and a law student.
Okay. We start with you, Eugene. What's the inspiration behind this whole Concert Nyumbani?
All right. So I run a company called Documentary and Reality TV, and what we do is we produce TV shows for almost all the channels in the country, including yours now. And when COVID happened, one of the things that happened, of course, entertainment was one of the first things to go out because congregating was no longer allowed. So, and we all rely on music heavily to uplift our spirits. So we saw artists all around doing the live broadcasts on Instagram, on YouTube. The problem with that is this uplifting music and performances aren't really getting to the people it was supposed to get to, because if you think about it, I think the biggest live stream that's happened in Kenya so far was Nyashinski's, which had about 8,000 views. And how many Kenyans have bundles to stream a full hour show? Not many. So if you're really looking to uplift people's spirits, the best way to do it will be via broadcast media. And that was really the thinking behind Concert Nyumbani. And eventually, when we were able to do it because of funding from Kenya Film Commission, we were somehow able to call all the major TV stations in country, and this is going to be the biggest TV event in Kenya's history because it's going to broadcast on 11 channels at the same time on Sunday at 2 p.m.
Yeah, and what did it take to pull this off? I mean, it's something that is huge to garner 11 TV stations to air the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. No, I think even before the airing, if you look at the production, there's 4 different production houses involved. There's multiple artists such as Jazzy and Mombi here. We have Hat the Band, we have Ben Soul. There were over 80 filmmakers who were involved in the making of this. So initially, when I came up with the concept, and this was around mid-March towards the end of April, I think the biggest hurdle was to get money because, as you can see, it's a very expensive production. And we were very happy to be able to get the support of Kenya Film Commission. So of course, this was the first step of getting it done. But then after we did the production and it went very well, there's almost 100 different moving parts that have gone into this. Of course, speaking to each of the individual TV stations and getting them to agree to air it at the same time, considering these are competing factions. So there's a lot of work and a lot of love and dedication that's gone into this, both from the artists and of course from media such as yourself.
Oh, nice. And in regards to the artists, you could maybe tell us the artists that are involved and how you chose the artists to be part of it. Yeah,
so we have poets, Mumbi and Jazzy are here. We also have a lady called Sitawa, who's a veteran poet. Her poetry is fantastic. We have Ben Soul. Ben Soul actually takes the chunk of the show because he has the most performances, which are 3. And then eventually we have Hat the Band. So the poets, of course, because these are the top poets in the country, if you think about it. So there was no doubt about that, and we asked them to submit pieces, and the pieces they submitted. I think the only brief was it has to be uplifting, and they did a fantastic job on that. So when we saw the copy first go, there was no questions. For Ben Soul, of course, because he makes very soulful music, and you will see this in the performances. Ben Soul speaks. A lot of people know him for different things, which is I don't know if I can speak about it on Watershed Hours, but he also has a lot of soulful music that people don't really speak about. So this was big for me, and eventually Hat the Band. They released the song El Shaddai just as the pandemic was beginning, and I found that it ended up being the song for most people during this period. If you look at it, it's the lyrics, the message of hope that it carries. And even for me, I'm not religious at all, but I found myself listening to that song a bunch of times in the month of March and April. So that was the thinking behind the selection of the artists.
Okay, and on the part of the artist, Mombi, when you received the call, what prompted you to say yes to this project?
Just the idea of a concert that would reach so many people at the same time, and the message behind it is so beautiful, because it's a concert to uplift people at home, the documentaries as well of these local heroes in our communities. It was just a concept that I could not say no to, and I was very honored and very grateful to have been chosen to be a part of it.
Nice. Jazz, how about you? What prompted you to say yes? the project?
Like Mumbi said, it is an honor to be part of something on this scale, considering the fact that a lot is happening right now in the world, and it's nice to just, like that word uplifting, when you guys had said that, I was like, okay, that's different, considering everything going on. And I was just intrigued to see how everything would come together, and I think when the day we were filming the performances and we got to see the documentaries as well, that it kind of clicked that this is going to resonate with so many different people, irrespective of where you're from, your background and whatnot. And I think that togetherness of being Kenyan and coming to become a unified kind of force during these trying times is such an important thing that we can't look away from.
Like from the clips we just saw, it seems like you guys were really having fun while filming all this. What was it like being on set, Mumbi?
It felt like I was at a live show. It really, really made me miss concert life, going to open mics and shows. It really, listening to the music and the poetry, it just put me back in that place of when we could all congregate and go to shows, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful day, and it was just an amazing feeling.
And for you, Jazz, how was the production, the set, everything?
I mean, I'm friends with Mumbi and the gentleman from Heart and Ben Soul, so it felt just like a hangout to an extent. I'm a big fan of Sitawa, so getting to see her in the flesh performing, that was something as well. I think, I don't know about other artists, but for me, whenever I'm in a space with artists who I look up to, sometimes I forget why I'm there. I'm just there like trying not to fangirl, like, okay, you're here for a reason. So it was a nice kind of vibe. There wasn't a lot of pressure. Eugene and the rest of the team were absolutely wonderful as well. It just felt very casual, and I think after being in lockdown for so many months, it was a nice interaction, so it didn't feel too much like work. There was a good balance of work and play.
Okay, and finally on YouTube, what does this project mean for your career? We are yet to see the pieces you performed on the show, which we are anxiously waiting for, but what does this mean for both your careers?
For me, I think this is just a stepping stone for poets at large in the country. I think spoken word poetry is an art that has struggled to make it into the mainstream entertainment scene. And so I'm very grateful to Eugene and his team for seeing the potential that poetry has to push messages and to entertain people at the same time. So I think this is just a breakthrough for spoken word poetry in the country, and I really hope it will make more people want to listen to more poetry and just be a breakthrough for spoken word poets at large.
All right, Jazz.
Same, because I think when we think about entertainment, we don't necessarily think about poetry, and then the fact that the team picked 3 female poets as well is wonderful, especially when you do see what Sitawa and Mumbi are speaking on. There's a lot of feminine power to it, and I think that's really important, specifically for the girls who are going to be watching, because there's not really been a lot of representation of female poets in the mainstream media within the continent. So it's good that we have that representation now, and that Eugene and the team have kind of telling the rest of the content creators, like, step up your game now. So just being a part of that process in itself it's more than enough for me within my career.
All right, back to you, Eugene. Aziad and Monique as hosts, considering their age difference.
So, from the very onset, I wanted this show to air on that magnitude across the whole country. And if you're watching TV on a Sunday afternoon, your parents will be watching as well, your grandparents. But so will be the 18-year-olds and the 19-year-olds. And Azayad, for me, has been a sensation during. I was looking at these artists and thinking, who's been very instrumental during this period rather. And if you look at Azayad, she really blew up when we were just in the first few weeks of lockdown, because we were all at home and on our phones, and there's no taking away the joy that she brought people with a glowing smile, you know. So for me, Azayad represented the younger population that's going to be watching this. The guys who are on TikTok and on TV, they'll come and watch this concert because of Azayad. But what about your parents? They'll want to see Moniki. So the thinking behind both Moniki and Azayad was to have someone who represents the very younger demographic and someone also represents the older demographic. And of course, the risk with this is always, are they going to gel? But it turned out very well. I've worked with Moniki many years. He's hosted quite a few of my TV shows. So I knew he would hold Azayad's hand. And Azayad, of course, came and she was she had never hosted a show like this before. She was very open to learning and she did a fantastic job.
Now, Eugene, we come back to you. What are some of the stories we expect on Sunday? Yeah.
So the whole notion of Concert Nyumbani is to have these performances dedicated to frontline workers and also regular individuals who are doing fantastic for their communities. And we went to Tala, we went to Naivasha and some sections of Nairobi. And we have stories. We have one story from Naivasha, fantastic. I don't want to preempt too much, but there's a Boda Boda operator there who's doing fantastic work. We have two ladies in Tala who've been in the news before, assisting with feeding the police force over there. We have Dr. Jemima, who's for me is just the one that takes the day because she's assisting all these pregnant women from different parts of Nairobi. You'll see a story of some policemen in there. We have Footworks, who's a rapper in Kibera, who's doing fantastic things also for his community. There are all these very uplifting stories of regular people who just going out of their way to help others during this period when they don't have to.
Okay. And as we finish up, the parting shot you can tell the audience as they await for Sunday.
2 p.m. wherever you like to watch, whatever you like to watch, catch Concert Nyumbani, 2 p.m. across all the major platforms. And it will be online as well if you'd like to stream.
All right, you heard it from the main man himself.
I've had to teach how to approach a woman. See, my job is to ensure that before I send you out into this world that you are right within, and that you know how to respect people from their head to their feet and everything in between. See, I will do my best to ensure that you never see the color of your skin as a stain, and I will try my best to ensure that you never have to know the affliction of a cane. And when they ask you who raised you, tell them that you walk with the confidence of a king because your mother praised you, because her love made you, because her words changed you. And when you learn how to walk, may you walk with your mother's pride the way she did past catcalls. When you learn how to walk, may you learn how to go the extra mile. When you learn how to talk, may everything that comes out of your mouth be better than silence. May you learn how to hold back and swallow any rude comments, misogynistic jokes, lies. May they rot in your throat so that they never have to see the light of day. And when you have your first crush, may you be wise enough to know that pulling a girl's hair or trying to fight her are not appropriate ways to tell a girl that you like her. But if you're lucky, maybe your mother will teach you her way with words. Maybe you will learn to lose yourself in the worlds you create on paper the same way she does. And when you grow up, may you never fall prisoner to the chains around your neck in the name of flex, and may other boys think they are kings until you come next. And if I have to promise you one thing, I promise you this. I promise that every day I will take my pen and my paper and I will sketch you in all of my books, and I will open them up to look at you whenever I forget how God looks.
I once read somewhere about there being 7 stages of grief. Stage 1, shock and denial. Stage 2, pain and guilt. Stage 3, anger and bargaining. Stage 4, depression, reflection, loneliness. Stage 5, the upward turn. Stage 6, reconstruction and working through. And finally, stage 7, acceptance. When you died, I didn't experience grief in the way that I was supposed to. Stage 1, acceptance. Before it could even sink in, I was already okay with the idea of your death. Stage 2, shock and denial. It hit me weeks after your death that your death was real. When I picked up the phone to call you and nobody answered. Stage 3, anger and bargaining. Maybe if I had seen the signs and done something different, I could have saved you. Stage 4, depression. Before your death, I bid my depression goodbye. With your death, depression came back, knocked at my door like an old friend, gave me a hug as if to say hello, and engulfed me in so much sadness I didn't ever think I was going to get out. At your funeral, they said, be strong, you'll move past this. Allah had a grander scheme in mind for things, but I want to yell and scream and tell them that you were taken away from me so soon, and now the man who was supposed to walk me down the aisle is no longer there by my side, and I'll have to live the rest of my life knowing that I almost had you. I once read somewhere about there being 7 stages of grief. What they didn't tell me is that sometimes grief doesn't leave you. Instead, grief stays. Grief makes a home in the void inside of your heart. Grief fills you. All you become is that grief.
When was the last time you asked someone close to you how often they think of killing themselves? When was the last time you asked someone close to you how often they try to heal themselves? Last night, I looked up the rate of suicide, 1 too many on average to be exact. So when I ask you how your day was, I need you to tell me exactly that. When I ask you how you're doing, I need a reply that implies that you will not try to turn yourself into another statistic. We need to talk so I can assure you suicide is not artistic. We need to talk, so that before you make me grieve for you, I can remind you that when you said you loved me enough to die for me, I can assure you that I must have loved you more because I loved you enough to live for you. We need to talk before someone manages to convince you to believe that depression is a white man's disease. We need to talk and talk until this is something we are talking about with ease. We need to talk so that in case no one told you today, I can remind you that you are important and you are enough and you are worthy. And if that doesn't work, we still need to talk. So maybe don't kill yourself until you have exhausted all your subscriptions for the month, or don't kill yourself until Kenya wins the World Cup, or don't kill yourself until you can finally manage to finish your ugali, sukuma wiki, and stew at the same time. And if somehow you manage to exhaust my list, call me so I can give you more reasons to live. Call me so I can remind you that yes, there will be 100 mornings when you don't want to wake up, but I promise you will find the will and you will. Call me. Call me at least to find out if I want to talk. Call me in case I need you to say this poem back to me. Call people. Ask people how they're doing. And tell them that you might not know exactly what it is they are feeling, but assure them that there is no expiration date on the process of healing.
He looks at me and says, I can't tell if you're Indian or Pakistani. Neither. I'm Kenyan. Yeah, but what's your ethnicity? I mean, where do your roots lie? I pause, begin to choose my words a little bit more carefully. I don't know. Wait. How could you not know where you're from? Everyone knows where they're from. Well, not everybody. Clearly. See, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly where you're from when your ancestors were slaves, enslaved. They were bound and shackled to the white man's colonization, taken from the places they knew to be their own and their homes. They traveled the 7 seas until finally they found a new home. When their feet hit the African soil, the Cape Town, Nakuru, Nairobi, Mombasa, heat hit them. They knew that this was their new home. 3rd to 5th generation, I call this my home. But they don't see me as Kenyan simply because my skin color and accent are different from what an African's should be, simply because of my religion and ethnicity. Apparently, there's a blueprint to what I can and cannot be. I am no longer enslaved like my ancestors, but I am bound to the patriarchy and neo-colonization, to a point that it tells me what I can and cannot do with my body, with myself, as though my existence depended first on the white man and now just generally any man that has a say over me. My ancestors did not die in vain. As much as their tongue and language was pulled out of my mouth and replaced with that of the colonizers, my ancestors did not die in vain. My ancestors gave me a reason to live, a voice for the struggles that they had to deal with. I am not just my skin color, I'm not just my accent, ethnicity, or religion, I am more than that. So when you ask me, what am I? The response is easy. I'm a human, so treat me with the respect that you would any other being.
Wow, Jazz, that was such a wonderful performance, and from Mombi as well. That was like really nice. You guys have elicited a lot of emotions in me and of course part of our audience. Thank you so much for coming. If there are any last words you'd like to share concerning Sunday with your people?
This Sunday at 2 p.m. across all the 11 TV stations. Tune in and enjoy.
And if you like my performance, my M-Pesa number is, no, I'm kidding. Make